630 CHED presents The Announcers. Opinion, personality, passion. The Announcers on 630 CHED, Edmonton's breaking news and conversation station.
A very special edition of The Announcers this week as we welcome a VIP guest who's made her way all the way up the stairs from the 103.9 Kissin' Country studio, Jacqueline Greenlee from Kissin' in the Morning with Chris, Jack, and Matt. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. It was a long trek upstairs. I didn't know if I was allowed here or not.
You're always welcome here.
Did I just blow it? Have you officially, has your surname changed? It has.
I wasn't going to correct you, but
nope.
yes.
Correct away. It's Jacqueline Sweeney.
You got it.
Pardon
with
me.
3 E's.
Did you make that change like that when you got married, or did you ease into the surname change?
No, you know what? I made the change right away. I thought, it's like a Band-Aid. Just rip it off and deal with it. And Greenlee and Sweeney, pretty similar.
Was it hard to walk away from the maiden name, as they call it?
No, I was excited to be a Sweeney.
Oh.
They're fun.
Your kids are, you have kids that are married.
Yeah.
Did they change their names?
Yeah. Well, I've got a history of name changing going on down in Calgary. So my ex-wife, who had my name, wanted to change my kids' names when she remarried, but she divorced him and remarried again and wanted to change the kids' names again, so apparently I wasn't the problem. And after that,
Just a note.
Yeah, exactly. My son is getting married, so he wouldn't change his name. My daughter did get married and then got divorced. So I don't even know what her last name is. I
Does
think
she
I
know?
do. Yeah, I don't know.
When you send her Christmas cards, it's just the first name?
Exactly. Well,
Exactly.
it's
My dear daughter.
You have email addresses. You have Twitter accounts. I mean, there's a lot to change these days if you change your last name.
I learned that very quickly.
A friend of mine in Minnesota,
Yeah.
when he got married, agreed to hyphenate his last name
Yes.
to accommodate his new wife's. And so he introduced a new surname. And I can tell you, and I won't name names, just in case they happen to listen in,
Okay.
his dad flipped.
Really?
Oh, he didn't like it because it meant the end, technically speaking, of their family name, right? Once you hyphenated it with another one, it just wasn't the same anymore, which I thought was kind of a rich circumstance to be in.
I think we'd all be happy if my line of name sort of just went aside. Now, my wife, she didn't want to hyphenate, and she was willing to take my last name, but she wasn't willing to give up hers. And now it's very entertaining for me because she became Carol McElvride Gross. There's no hyphenation, but when we travel, that's too many letters to fit on a boarding pass or anything else.
Oh, yes.
And plus, nobody can pronounce it. So with great joy, when we check into a flight, I don't correct them. They'll be like, okay, so which one is Carol
Just wait and see.
Yeah. Just don't go ahead, take another run at that. Wouldn't it? If you had a name that nobody could pronounce, wouldn't you welcome the opportunity to change it to something that everyone can pronounce?
I think so.
Yeah.
I guess it would depend on the meaning of the name. I mean, I know that there are some people that can't wait to get rid of their surname. They're probably looking forward to it, and I think there are others that are like, heck no. I think this is an interesting generation because it's anything goes these days.
Yeah.
You know, my
Definitely.
wife, professionally speaking, because she works in broadcasting, wanted her name as her brand, so she decided to keep her name. At the same time, actually legally speaking, she took mine. But we had the conversation ahead of time where I said, listen, you can do whatever you like. For me, it's not a big deal. But where I decided to dig my heels in, though I didn't really have to, it wasn't much of an issue. Would have been okay if it was. We could have talked it out. How careful am I being right now?
Very careful.
I said no hyphenating our son's last name.
No.
How come?
Yeah.
I was hoping she wouldn't ask me. I don't know why, Jack.
I know why,
don't
because
actually
of the
even
back
have...
of a jersey, a hockey jersey. It's just too long,
It's just
right?
too long, and
Yeah.
of course he's allowed to do. I've said he's allowed to do anything with his life that he wants, as long as it involves playing in the National Hockey League.
Okay.
he can play for any team. No, and actually, I don't even have a good answer, and I bring it up somewhat in jest, but I just think, what happens if Ryan Nugent Hopkins marries a girl with hyphenated last names? Then what are you going to do when they have a kid?
A lot of punctuation in there.
I don't know. It's almost like past generations have already sorted that out, and we're just figuring it out for ourselves. But hey, I'm all about that. I'll tell you, the other day, Wednesday, I met a doctor at the Mazankowski Alberta Heart Institute. Andrew, I'm not sure if you talked to him as well, but I couldn't even pronounce his actual title at the hospital. That's how smart this guy was.
We had a few of those.
Whoa.
It was
yeah.
called like an immediaciologist or something like. I mean, this guy is one of the people that, like, he said, when you're having the worst day of your life, I'm the one looking out for you. But what a powerful morning it was. Heart Pledge Day presented by 630 CHED.
$170,000
$170
That's
grand.
incredible.
And
Congratulations.
counting, by
Yep,
the
still
way.
coming in.
Wow.
As 630 CHED listeners called in throughout the day and went online as well in support of the Mazankowski Heart Institute. Wednesday was a big day for fundraising.
It was huge. It seemed everything just kind of happened on the Wednesday. Of course, it was Pink Shirt Day. We were raising money and raising awareness for the initiative against bullying. One of the stats that came out was every 7 minutes, a child is bullied on the playground. 7 minutes. That's crazy. So there was that going on. Everyone was wearing pink as far as their t-shirts go, but they were also wearing pink in their hair because of the hair massacre. And that's been going on for 14 years in our city. They've raised over $10 million for the Stollery and Make-A-Wish Foundation for Northern Alberta. 1,300 people on Wednesday shaved their heads at West Edmonton Mall.
Wow, really?
It was a sea of pink hair. It was amazing. And then if that wasn't enough, the firefighters on Fire Hall number 2, as well as throughout the Edmonton and surrounding areas, they got to come down because they raised $135,000 for muscular dystrophy. Incredible.
Now, I wore a pink shirt yesterday at the
Was it
On
on
Mazankowski.
purpose?
Yeah. And, I get a lot of this. You know that these things happen. You mentioned that pink shirt goes back, 14 years? Did you say?
The hair massacre, 14 years
14
in our city.
Okay, and the pink shirt, how long does that, what's
I
the
think
history?
it's gaining momentum.
I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's a little more recent.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'll just be honest with you. I hear about these things, I know about these things, but if not for Twitter, I would forget that these things are taking place. So before I went to the Mazankowski, I was seeing people tweet. I saw pictures actually from your account, and I thought, I've got to find a pink shirt. But the only pink shirt I could find is a dress shirt, a suit.
That's okay.
Yeah, which I wore. But then when I got to the Maz, where we're doing a fabulous thing for a world-renowned Heart Institute, I was the only one wearing pink. So it just looked odd. And no one mentioned it to me.
Maybe that's kind of the point, though. They want you to stick out. So
I guess.
it's like the
People
whole
talk
November
about it.
mustache idea.
Yeah.
You're the walking billboard to get people talking. I didn't wear a pink shirt yesterday, and not intentionally or on purpose. It occurred to me as I was rolling into the Mazankowski. It was also Pink Shirt Day, and I went, because I promised my bud, Barry Strader at ATB Financial, that I would wear a pink
Right.
shirt and that I would support the initiative, and I do. But I also find sometimes it's a little overwhelming. You know, I mean, you want. It's not that the hair massacre doesn't represent a great cause, and it's not that we don't need to talk about bullying, because we do, and it's certainly not that we don't need to raise money for the Mazankowski. And what about those that are living with muscular dystrophy that are having the firefighters help them out on an ongoing basis? But it's hard to keep track, and even more. I mean, it's not a big deal to, I guess, shave your head or wear a pink shirt, but to try to keep up with all of these, it's like that whack-a-mole game.
It's a lot.
I have a different sort of, I don't want to say problem, and I don't even want to go so far as to say concern, but it's just something that crosses my mind. So I wear a pink shirt to the Mazankowski yesterday and then spend 4 hours encouraging people to phone in and give actual money to the Heart Institute. So when you say, well, the pink shirt raises awareness, my fear with these things is, does dumping water on my head solve a problem? Does wearing a pink shirt solve a problem? I worry sometimes that when you ask for an actual check, when you say we need a check because we've got this world-class Heart Institute that needs money, then that's a very ask and receive call to action. It's very straightforward. Did me or anyone else wearing a pink shirt change anything? And is it an excuse to do nothing about it if you're allowed to do something easy? You don't have to do anything about bullying, just wear a pink shirt. Did that solve any problems?
I think it starts the conversation, though. I mean, for those that maybe didn't know that it was Pink Shirt Day or didn't know about Heart Pledge Day, if you've got that pink shirt on, if you've got something and raising that conversation, well, then maybe those that didn't know about it will donate, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've had the conversation before, even on these airwaves, where we were talking about bullying. And I found, and this was not intentional, but we were talking about schoolyard bullying and playground bullying and bullying if it comes to fraternities or sororities or bullying, whatever. And then all of a sudden someone called in and said, I'm bullied in my workplace every day. And somebody else called in and said, my dad is bullied in his long-term care center. And it got the conversation going, sort of opening our eyes to the things that may be flying under our radar. I also think it, for a kid that's maybe one of these that every 7 minutes, like you said, Jax, is being bullied on the playground, to see that the Eskimos quarterback, Mike Riley's wearing pink, and the stars of the Edmonton Oilers are stepping up, and radio hosts and authors and politicians and business leaders, they're all standing up maybe they don't feel like they feel every other day, which is that nobody notices and I'm going through this by myself.
Right.
You know what? And I don't want to put down, and please don't mistake what I'm saying for condemnation of any of these kind of things. I think they're all fabulous. If they raise awareness by one person a year, then they've succeeded. But I think about where bullying takes place the most, for example. It takes place the most in social media. So I wonder if you were to take a look at pictures that people posted of themselves wearing a pink shirt, and then were to go through their Twitter account and see what they've tweeted over the last year, would you not find probably people that have bullied or been unfair or criticized other people unfairly? So are you making the connection? That's all I'm asking. That you wore pink to say there's solidarity, but have you changed your ways?
Fingers crossed they will now.
Yeah.
But this is exactly what I mean. This is this new phrase, or maybe it's not new, maybe it's resurfaced, but people talk about slacktivism, how easy it is to favorite something on Twitter or to share something on Facebook when really you haven't actually accomplished much. Actually, I mean, to go off on a tangent, which the announcers allows us to do, uninterrupted by commercial for 23 minutes every Saturday morning, we can pursue different ideas. The Ward 12 by-election just went down in our city on Monday. Did you notice anything about the most popular candidates on Twitter and how the final votes wound up?
No.
Did you notice that Mo Banga, who's Edmonton's new councillor for Ward 12, just joined Twitter, has a very modest following, and quite clearly is either not tweeting very often or having his campaign team tweet for him, which is just fine. And then did you notice that of Mr. Banga's 2,500 votes or so, those that were trending on Twitter, those that were the favorite, the social media darlings, if you will, each got about 800 votes? It kind of reminded me that maybe sometimes social media sway and social media punch power is totally overrated.
Oh, it's definitely overrated.
You guys are bursting my bubble here.
I know, Jackson.
I am
this is
proud
right.
of my 8,000 followers.
Well, because you've worked hard for them, right?
Right, of course.
But you know, think about Facebook events and what a great thing Facebook events were when they were first introduced. You have a fundraiser, you have a comedy show, you have whatever it is you want to promote, and you put it on Facebook and say, I've got this event, and I would love for you to come with the details, a link to the website, and you get 300 people that say they confirmed, they're coming, they like it. They're not coming. And it's just, it shines a flashlight on what you just said, that slacktivism, is that what you called it?
Yeah.
Where you know what, I'm going to support this by saying I'm going. You know, if everybody who phoned the Mazankowski supported them by saying they were going to write a check, but didn't write a check, nothing changes down at the Maz. And that is what Facebook is, and that is what Twitter is. It's a picture of what you'd like to be, but not necessarily what you are. Are you going to go to that event? I'm certainly supporting that event because I liked it. Are you
Welcome
doing
to the
anything
world of
about it?
social media.
Exactly. And are we really, we've talked about this before, but are we really in any way related to what we put on Facebook anyway? Does anybody ever put their vacation pictures up and show the day it rained, or unless they make a joke about it? Nothing in social media is real, and I would say that includes your support oftentimes of charities. You say you're going to do something, but did you? You know, I the only social media type page where you can prove that you did what you did is a GoFundMe, where you can go and actually look at it and say, oh, that's $100. That guy actually stepped up.
We know. I mean, we heard from Alberta's Finance Minister Joe Ceci this week talking about the economic reality in Alberta. I think it's probably safe to say that tens of thousands of us don't need to hear from the Finance Minister to testify that it's been a tough year.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, you know, for example, Heart Pledge Day at the Mazankowski on 630 Ched, you know, we were sitting there going, we know trend-wise what we've done over the last couple of years, and we know that it's been on the rise, and as awareness grows around this event, then donor support tends to grow as well. But we also wondered, what would it look like? Because this has been a really tough year, you know? And when you're asking people to donate, I mean, for some people, $20 is a really big deal right
That's
now.
huge.
For some people, $20 is always a big deal. For other people that might have donated $500 or $1,000 this year, to even think of donating $100 is a really big decision. So, and I know this is not where you're going with this, but sometimes where we say, you know, or we imply that if you're not donating money or if you're not volunteering your time, you're really not accomplishing much. Sometimes we also, I think, have to take a look at the context of what sort of a year it is. And the fact that we still hit our goal this year, more than $170,000, to me says that Albertans stepped up arguably more than they have in years past, even if the number's about the same as where it was previously, just because of the circumstance we're in. But people are having to pick and choose over what they support.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've noticed that even in my own personal life. I mean, my husband is an oil worker, so of course it's been a really tough economy for us this year. And so we are avid supporters of, the usual home lotteries and the Stollery and the Mazankowski. And we have found personally, our numbers have dropped. We're still supporting all of them, but where we would have donated, let's say $50, we're now donating $40.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's still, we're spreading the love, but just a little thinner.
Has your husband's work schedule drastically dropped over the last year?
We've been very lucky that his hasn't. However, he is finding, and this is an interesting little note, is that lots of the oil workers have been fired, been let go, and now the oil industry is almost coming back up, and they're saying, okay, we need these workers. Well, these guys already have normal, quote unquote, jobs here in Edmonton and in Calgary. They're not going back to the oil patch because they can't leave those jobs for just a 2-week hitch. So they're finding actually in the oil patch, there is certain areas that are actually lacking in work.
Interesting.
Which is very interesting.
It's like, do you know someone that's lost their job, Andrew, or,
Yes.
or that's had it cut back?
More than a few.
My brother, I've shared on the air, my brother lost his job just a short time ago directly due to the economy. He's a home builder. I mean, it's like literally people are saying, hey, if you didn't live here in Alberta in the 1980s, brace yourself because this seems like the first 4 or 5 chapters of a familiar book.
Very much so.
Yeah, I'm really seeing the trickle-down effect, particularly with sponsorship of the festival, the comedy festival, and the number of sponsors who regretfully cannot step up like they did in previous years or cannot step up to the level that they did in previous years. And I'm trying desperately just to keep them on board at some level so that we're still talking to each other. But we're down about, I'd say, close to half.
Wow.
And
I believe
that's
it.
a lot of money. But I understand that that's something that's not a necessary component. It's part of being a good citizen to help support an undertaking like a festival. And it's, and really, I would rather, as you mentioned, you asked, have I had friends? I'd rather my friend kept his job at the home builder than the home builder sponsored the comedy festival. But you will, I think, see more and more things like our festival going away or other things like that where it's just they can't afford to do it.
So, Jax, you rattled off, just off the top of your head, some of the commitments that you and your husband make as a family unit when it comes to funding certain charities or initiatives or whatever the case may be. How do you personally decide? Do you look for ones that have a personal connection to you, or how are you making those tough decisions where you can spread your donor dollars around?
I think it varies. Of course, there is the Stollery with the personal connection. I mean, we've had family members that have benefited from the Stollery. Of course, we do the Kissin' and Chorus Radiothon. So that's more of a personal one. But I'm going to be completely honest with you. We are huge fans of home lotteries. So it's almost that dream of, and especially given this year in this economy, how nice would it be to win $1 million home? And at the same time, you're still supporting the hospitals.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
Why not?
Hey, I flip through those. We buy a home lottery ticket every year as well.
Yeah.
For us, it's a personal connection. The staff at the Royal Alexandra Hospital and Lois Hole Hospital for Women have been big with our family in a couple of different instances. And so we do that. We make that contribution in honor of a child we lost and in honor of our son Wyatt, who's with us. And that's an annual tradition for us. So there's meaning to it, but there's also chasing the dream.
Oh, that added
Wouldn't
bonus.
It be interesting, though, in this economy to talk to, and I'm getting a radio segment idea right now, to talk to some of the organizers that pull together these home lotteries, because you're selling the idea of a lavish life. I mean, they're giving away Ferraris and $25,000 cash
goodness.
and a home on a golf course. I mean, these homes have like firefighter poles in them and
They
things.
sure
Maybe
do.
not really, but waterfalls and crazy.
I thought all homes had. Really?
Yeah. Well,
Just yours, I
quickest way to
guess.
get- But I'd be curious to know. I mean, do people's appetites for the lavish or the extravagant, do they change? Whether it's even just the thought of chasing the dream
Interesting.
of that.
My guess would be that those kind of lottery fundraisers would actually be more popular in a poor economic time because the dream becomes more necessary. Just as I think people buy more lottery tickets, when economic times are bad or when they're closing in on retirement, because that then becomes their retirement package, right? It's the other ones where all you're getting is a tax receipt that I think are probably the more difficult ones to sell. And I'm like you guys, I have to have a personal connection. Cross Cancer Institute, the Alberta Cancer Foundation is one that is very near and dear to me, so that's one that I support. I also talk myself into it. The personal connection sometimes is me, because we'll be at the Maz or we'll be at the Stollery or we'll be wherever, and we'll be asking people all day long to pick up the phone and make a donation. And at some point, I talk myself into it.
Oh, for sure.
You can't help it.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like a hypocrite if you don't.
Exactly.
Exactly.
At some point, you pull out that Visa and go, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and Stollery was the first one I did, 2 conversations in with parents. Mm-hmm. And I just was waving my card around like, who do I give this to?
Yeah.
That's a particularly tough one.
Yeah, for us, it's just something that we try to budget for. You sort of
Yeah.
try to have a monthly budget, or that the certain
Exactly.
ones are coming through the year. I mentioned Movember earlier. I grew a mustache for a lot of years, and then when I decided that my time had come, it was time to let my face go to fallow, so to speak. I made a commitment to other Mo Bros and Mo Sisters that are still
Right.
leading the charge,
Yep.
and said, "Hey, I may not be growing this year, but you can count on a donation from me."
What
There's that
about
tie in
GoFundMes?
there.
Have you ever seen one that you just really liked where you weren't personally connected?
Pride tape. And this brings us back to a conversation you had earlier about, if you just wear the shirt or if you just do whatever, but you don't donate cash. The Pride Tape Initiative, for people that aren't familiar, it's an Edmonton-born international initiative with the Pride colors on hockey tape. And they've got the Edmonton Oilers on board. The Oilers actually taped their sticks with Pride tape for the recent skills competition. And it's expected, though not confirmed, that the Oilers may be the first NHL team to use Pride tape in a regular season game next season. The reason
Amazing.
why I think something like that is so big is because not just the hockey community, but the sports community still has, whether it wants to admit it or not, an element of homophobia. And I think sometimes something as simple as a leader in a dressing room, a member of a team, taping his or her stick with the rainbow colors, with the Pride colors, gets a conversation going, but it also flies that flag to say, to you, our team member who's keeping a secret right now in the dressing room, you have at least one person that supports you no matter what. And I think that's why
fair.
that's important.
That's fair. For me, the last GoFundMe I did was a guy whose story I just tripped across, but he has always had an artificial leg, and it broke. And for whatever reason, he couldn't get the funding to replace the leg. So his name's Ben Prue. He actually lives in Sherwood Park.
He's a comedian, isn't
He's
he?
a comedian, and I hadn't seen him in years, and we're not tightly connected. And I was aware of the fact that he had an artificial leg, but I didn't really think about it beyond that. But
Right.
I just read the story on Facebook, actually. It wasn't even in real legitimate media. And he needed $60,000 for a new leg.
Wow.
Yeah, and he had gone and done as much as he could to get that price down, and he'd written companies and he talked to the government, and he got it down to $12,000. And I just looked at it and went, "Yeah, I'm in."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
Let's
love
help you
that because
out.
this is the era, this is the age of crowdfunding and crowdsourcing, where if you can put a good business plan together, if you can
Yeah.
put a good case together, you can go ahead and fund an idea. I mean,
Exactly.
And if it sucks, people won't support it.
They won't do it.
You know, people vote with their wallets.
Exactly. I found, as far as GoFundMe, yeah, it's that personal connection, that personal story, and especially locally. I mean, you couldn't pay me enough to go and fund Kanye West's, GoFundMe
Oh,
and get me out of my
jeez.
debt. But Hadley's bucket list, I mean, it was a couple years ago where her family, it was a Stollery family. They talked about little Hadley. She was 4 or 5, had cancer, and had all these things that she wanted to do, terminal cancer, I might add. So they wanted to raise all these funds to show her the best life that she could have for her last days. So I know as a morning show, we talked about it on Kissin' Country, and we all donated to it. And the rest of the money, sadly, Hadley passed away a little while ago. The rest of the money, the family is donating. So
Wow.
it's incredible.
Incredible. Jax, it's been a total pleasure having you here on The Announcers.
Likewise. Thank
Thanks
you for having
hanging
me.
out with us. You can catch Jacqueline Sweeney
You got
and the
it.
rest of her team weekday mornings on 103.9 Kissin' Country. Of course, Andrew Gross on the air every weekday afternoon, the afternoon news here on 6:30 CHED. And you can tune into my show 9 to noon. Thanks for joining us.